Hi everybody, it's me George. I hope you're all doing well today. And today I wanted to talk about a video that has kind of thrown me off guard why I haven't ever spoke about this. This is something that is very, very different within traditional witchcraft. And today I'm going to talk about the Airts, which is Gaelic for winds, okay, and within the compass round. And really, I think through watching this video, you will see that the compass round really is a spiritually navigational tool in which the witch or the practitioner can operate the different worlds and transverse the different realms. And there is a lot more than actually four Airts. Okay, so please be aware of that, and I'll touch on that later. Hopefully, if I forget, if I don't forget. But essentially, within a lot of modern pagan traditions and ways in which we work, we will address the four watchtowers. So you will have north will be earth, east will be air, south will be fire, and west will be water. In Oldcraft, that's kind of, it's completely different. It's completely and utterly different. And actually, to the point where we don't really, like, it's multifaceted, it's multi-layered, it's not just restricted to the elements. Okay, so it's actually a whole different interwoven tapestry of representations. Okay, now in some forms of traditional craft, you will see that they have stuck to these sort of classic watchtowers, or more so directions. North being earth, east being air, south being fire, west being water. One in particular, I believe, is the Dragon Book of Essex by Andrew Chumley. He very much sticks to those points and to those directions. But for the majority of tradcrafters, for the majority of people within Oldcraft, those Airts, those cardinal directions are very, very different. And it highlights, once again, we remember that the compass round, we don't make the ground sacred and call something up. We believe the ground is already sacred. So it doesn't need sanctifying because it's already sacred. So for us as trad witches, we go to them. Do you know what I mean? We don't call them up. It is us that goes to them. It is us that goes to the other worlds. And that the Airts really highlight just how much the compass is a navigational tool for exactly that purpose. So I'm going to go around the different directions. I'm not going to do all of them because there is more than four. But essentially, the directions in which we work with are north, south, east, west, topsy-turvy, northeast, southwest, southeast, and northwest. It is completely different. But for the moment, I'm just going to try and stick to the four and then highlight on as above and below. Okay, so for us, we have the north. Let's start at the north. And a lot of traditional witchcraft altars, a lot of rituals, the stang will be placed in the north. And the north represents a gateway. Okay, that can be the gateway to the other world. That can be a gateway to the spirit world. It's the direction of the North Star. Okay, it's the direction of winter. And you need to think of the northern hemisphere. We think the blackest darkness that can exist, right? We think of darkness, but we think of the wind. Okay, how cold it is, that chilling wind that sweeps from the north. We think of storms, we think of tempests. That is north. The winds, air is attributed to north, but as again, it's got other attributes to it. It is the direction of the North Star. It is the direction of Cain, the first farmer. It is the grandfather to Tubal Cain. It is the direction of Cain, the one that sacrificed. Okay, the one that sacrificed Abel, who killed Abel, his brother, representing the hunter, representing the direction of the person that makes that sacrifice. That is the direction of Cain. That is the direction of darkness. That is the direction of wind. Okay, the northward star. In Gemma Gary's book, Traditional Witchcraft, A Cornish Book of Ways, she very much cleverly associates these four Airts, these directions, with familiar spirits. So for her, within her tradition, she will call upon the crow. And the crow is the familiar spirit for the direction, the northward direction. So let's go to the east. So the east is where the sun rises, okay? That is the direction of spring, okay? We go from winter, we go to spring, okay? I'm so sorry, my little bird is a proper chirping away, little starling's nest. Oh, I love them. We have a starling's nest under our kitchen, it's fine, I'm officially anti-George now. Anyway, I digress. The east is the direction of sunrise, it's the direction where light floods the land. It is the direction of the morning star, of Lucifer. It is the direction of fire, of the warmth coming back into the land. That is what we would think when we think of the east. We think of light, we think of fire, of Lucifer. And it's also the direction of blacksmithery being heavily attached to witchery, to sorcery, to witchcraft. To wizardry, the blacksmith's forge. So some of us will face east when we are doing a ritual known as rousing the inner fire, rousing the fires within, the fires in the belly. That inner witch power, that witch fire that we all carry, that we are all given, that inner fire. And we face the east in honor of Tubal-Cain, and Tubal-Cain playing that element of blacksmithery, of the influence of horse whispering, of Freemasonry within Oldcraft, and that is the direction, the east. Once again, the serpent as an animal, as a familiar spirit in Gemma Gary's work, is seen as the familiar spirit of the east because we think about Imbolc, we think about that old quote, you know, the serpent comes beneath the mound, it comes out from the mound of spring. Adders crawling towards the sun, towards the direction of sunlight. That is where we think, okay? The direction of the morning star. Go back. We've got the south. The south is it's the pole star. It's the southern hemisphere. It's light. It's hot, but it's also the earth. That is the direction of the earth. That is the direction of summer. Of summer's bounty, of summer's beauty. And not only that, we think about this, we think about the idea and the spiritual geography and cosmology of Elphame, of the fairy folk. We think about the fairy realms, we think about the Rose Queen or the Queen of Elphame. This is the direction that she is in. This is the direction that the fairy folk are within, solidifying even more the concepts and the ideology that the witch inherently is fae. The witch has blood of the she, of the good folk, of the little people. That is south. South is the time, literally, of summer, of earth, and that is the direction. And when we think about the south, we also think about, in terms of the animal from traditional witchcraft, the Cornish Book of Ways, we think about the hare. Okay, so the hare is attributed to the south, being a familiar spirit of the south. So, let's go to the west. Oh, sorry, rewind back to the south. The south is also the direction of Abel, the first slain, representing the sacred twins, as above, so below, representing that the hunter and the hunted are all but one. They are all but one, representing the polarity within the story of Cain and Abel, Cain murdering his first brother Abel, and Abel being the first sacrificed. And it's this element here of the divine twins, the twins of darkness and of light, and that is a mirror image. Thus the same you'll see within east to west. The east being the morning star, and when we go over to the west, the evening star, Venus. It's the direction of the evening star. Okay, so this is where the sun sets. The sun sets in the west. This is the time and this is the place of the water. This is the place of the ancestors. It's the river Styx. It's the rivers of the dead. It's where we lay a river of souls. When we work with the ancestors, when we work with ancestral spirits within Oldcraft, quite often, not all the time, but in rituals such as tapping the bone, where we work with the ancestral dead, we will face the west because we pay homage to that river, where the ferryman is, where you pay the ferryman, you go and traverse to the realm of the dead. This is the direction of the ancestors, where the sun dies, the setting sun, okay, the evening star. And so the West is heavily attributed to that. It's heavily attributed to the mighty dead. When we tap the bone, this is where we might face, okay? If we lay what's known as a river of souls around the compass round, normally starts from the West. You start it from the West, laying a river of souls around, and then you end at the West to give honor and homage to the ancestors. Now, in Gemma Gary's book, Traditional Witchcraft, the familiar spirit to the West is the toad, because the toad is the leaper between. It's the leaper betwixt, okay? A lot of the times as well, but not all the time, some people may place certain things down at different directions as an acknowledgement for those. So for instance, when we think about the north, the stang will be placed within the north, okay, acting as a gateway, acting as a doorway. When we think about the east, sometimes an anvil and even some pincers or even some tongs will be, or a mallet will be placed at the east for the blacksmith, for honouring the blacksmith. When we think about the south, we think about a bow, we think about a ring of plants. We think about either flowers, something to honour the fae folk, the good folk, the wee ones, the little people. That is where we place that. We place that within the south, and there are other things that people can use as well. And in the West, normally is a vessel of water or a cauldron, because it represents the cauldron, the mighty cauldron in which we all go back to the womb of old fate, of Dame Fate, back to the land of the dead, the water in the cauldron representing the waters of the dead. The dead and water is inextricably linked in folklore. We see it in the River Styx. We also see it in different elements of mythology, in different stories, and not only that, in different lore as well. We also, not only that, we see it in other cultures, in other practices as well, as West having this inherent link with the dead. So we will place things around. Not only that, we have above, we have the upper world, okay, and the stang will be used as such, will be worked with, not used, morely so as worked with, as a world tree, as a tree in which we can traverse up and down. And sometimes, not all the times, but some old craft covens, there will be a summoner, and that person will wear a squirrel's mask or any emblems or things identifying with squirrels, because a squirrel goes up and down the tree. And the summoner is normally one of the most psychic people in the coven, traditionally, but we have the upper world, we have the realm of the gods, we have the realm of fate, we have the realm of, when we think of the upper world, some people, see it and associate it with Athens. They see it as this kind of ethereal, light place where the gods reside, okay? And it doesn't always have to be that. It's not Athens, but that's just it's just an example. Do you know what I mean? It's a metaphorical example to show you guys. But the upper world, being the realm of the gods, is very much seen as that, okay? We have the middle, the mundane, our world, the trunk of the tree, because that's what a stang is. It's an axis mundi, it's a world tree. And then we have the roots, and the roots can also be alpha-may. They can also be the realm of the dead as well, because the fairy realm and the realm of the dead are inexplicably linked. This is the underworld. This is the realm of spirit allies, of familiar spirits, of power animals. And this is the realm in which a witch may go to connect with and to commune with their familiar spirits. This is very much the ground. Do you know what I mean? This is the serpentine energy of the land. This is the life force of the land. So the underworld actually can be it can be a mix, a real mishmash of all these different directions. So that is a small video on the spiritual geography and cosmology of the 6 ways which we have within traditional witchcraft. Now, there can also be northeast. There can also be southeast, there can be southwest, and there can be northwest as well, but I'm not going to go into them just yet. One of the books in which I would thoroughly recommend for the cardinal directions, more so the Airts within the compass round, and I would completely 120% recommend this book. Please have a look at my review of this book, but is The Witch Compass by Ian Chambers. I would thoroughly recommend this book. Working with the winds in traditional witchcraft, and it is so concise, it is so detailed, it is it's just so interesting. It's a fantastic book, and it really takes you through working with the Airts, working with the winds, and not just the 4 cardinal directions, those other aspects that we spoke about too. This book talks about traversing the different worlds and realms of the compass round. And I really thoroughly enjoyed this book. So I would highly recommend this book. Another thing, and last but not least, which I will mention, is that we see the influence, and again, this isn't calling traditional craft shamanism, because it is not shamanism, but it definitely has influences of shamanic influences, and it definitely is a lot more shamanic or spontaneous and ecstatic as of compared to other practices of and forms of pagan witchcraft. Some traditional witches don't even call themselves pagan, you know. And, you know, when we look at different practices within shamanism, they too may face different directions, but they will also go up and down that axis mundi. And that is very much the influences, the shamanic influences of witchcraft there, seeing the witch as an otherworldly being as well as a worldly being, the witch traversing through. The witch is transient between this world and the next. The witch doesn't just stick in one realm. The witch will always have one foot in this world and one foot in the other. The witch is the other. And this is very much that influence there that we see within some shamanic cultures and practices. Again, I am not saying that witchcraft is shamanism. I think shamanism is a very different practice, particularly now as compared to the West, and we look at indigenous shamanic cultures and practices. I think that's very different. However, we can definitely see that, just like Emma Wilby, who will call, you know, for instance, in her book Isabel, Visions of Isabel Godey, she talks about dark shamanism in 17th century Scotland. And I love that terminology. I don't think it's shamanism per se, but I definitely think there's an aspect there. And it is that element that amplifies the witch as the other. I have gone on. This has been quite a long video. I didn't anticipate this, but I am going to go with it. Have a lovely weekend, guys. Have a lovely bank holiday weekend for those of you that are in the UK. Whether or not you're celebrating the coronation or not, that's not really relevant. Just have a lovely time. And yes, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope this video helps, because I haven't ever tackled this before. And I'm wanted, so I'm gonna go. That's my buzzer. Over and out. Peace.